The story begins when a high school student named Yachai Haruaki receives a mysterious super heavy blue cube from his archaeologist father abroad. When he presses the red button on the cube, a strong light appears in it. Not knowing what to do, Yachai leaves the cube in the basement until he can find answers as to what this object was. The cube proves to be more than meets the eye when. That night, Haruaki wakes up to a suspicious noise in the kitchen and discovers a girl who is stealing rice crackers totally naked of clothes. The girl introduces herself as Fear, the box in which Yachai had received during the day, being a cursed tool born of negative human emotions meant to shred or even take other people's lives, and asks for his help in removing the curse placed on it to torture other people. This curse can even be passed on to its owner, causing him to harbor the same feelings. The only one who could help her undo this curse would be Yachai Haruaki, Natsu's son. Haruaki says that he will help since he is a special guy, being unable to catch any curses. While they were talking, Miramasa appears and interrupts their conversation, questioning who this girl was that was standing next to Haruaki. They join Konoha Miramasa, who immediately dislikes Fear, but nevertheless agrees to help her, as Konoha is a former cursed Fear, existing both as a girl with braided hair and glasses and as a katana. Haruaki and Miramasa go to school while telling Fear to stay home and distract herself with the television or even a magic cube that Haruaki gave her, telling Fear not to go out into the street. Then Haruaki tells Fear to combat her negative self with positive thoughts and good deeds so that it will be harder for her to pass the curse on to its bearer, and that she was to behave while they were not at home. But after the two students leave, Fear decides to disobey the order and go to the city to explore the world outside while Haruaki and Miramasa keep themselves busy studying and unable to supervise her. After going out and meeting several people who motivated her to return to her home and try to be a better person, Fear returns to try to help clean the house, but ends up causing an even bigger destruction and mess. After Haruaki and Fear fight, Haruaki and Miramasa go into town to do some shopping, discovering that Fear has met the townspeople and made friends with them, and is a good person. Upon returning home, Haruaki apologizes to her for not listening to her explanations and understanding her lack of knowledge of the human world. Slowly, Fear begins to trust him. The next day, Haruaki gives Fear a school uniform, telling her that she will be transferred to her school along with Konoha, making Fear very happy, but in return, Konoha is frustrated. When they arrive at Teishu High School, they go to Sekebashi Superintendent Gabriel. The superintendent says he has arranged for Fear to study in the same class as Haruaki. Gabriel summons Zenon and asks them to evaluate if the mask Zenon was holding was cursed. Miramasa quickly realizes that it is just a simple mask, leaving Gabriel frustrated with the answer, so the boys make their way out of Gabriel's room to the classroom. Fear's appearance immediately makes the whole school go crazy with her adorable appearance and childish attitude, after telling the whole class that she knows Haruaki. He is asked about the relationship between the two of them. Fear, on the other hand, deals with various clubs trying to pressure her into joining them. After classes are over, Fear reflects on the hectic first day and, together with Haruaki and Konoha, decides to take a detour to a seaside gazebo. A happy moment turns dangerous when they are attacked by PV Barroweye, a sadistic woman from an organization dedicated to exterminating cursed tools, specifically Fear, whose full name is Fear and Cube, an organization called the Knights of the Battlefront. Fear and Barroweye begin to fight, a confrontation in which Barroweye appears to have a great advantage since he is possibly much more experienced in combat than Fear. PV reveals Fear's dark past as a cursed tool created during the height of the Inquisitions and his participation in it as a torture device with 32 methods to make people suffer. After realizing that Fear's mind has begun to be shaken from being used in the past to do these cruel acts, Miramasa begins to confront PV using his hand as a sword. But even so, he has great difficulty in confronting PV. Then Muramasa turns into a sword and Haruaki wields it, joining forces to confront PV. As the two fight, PV's combat tool arm is injured. Consequently, Haruaki's arm is also injured, causing them both to bleed. Watching the blood, Muramasa is shaken because she hates to spill the blood of her allies. While Fear recovers his former sadistic behavior, Fear begins to use various abilities against PV, until she manages to mercilessly cut off one of PV's arms, making her enemy even more nervous, but something catches PV and captures her, ending the confrontation. After PV retreats, Fear begins to attack Haruaki, so Muramasa forces Harumaki to fight her, until a few seconds later Fear returns to normal. But feeling foolish for believing that she could actually lift her curse, she flees in search of taking her own life. Then Harumaki tries to follow her, but because of the bleeding he ends up falling to the ground because his body was already at its limits. After these events, Konoha attends to Haruaki's wound and reminds him of how it was for her to adjust to being human and accept her good and bad sides. Fear, on the other hand, is caught wandering around the city by Yuno Kirika, the president of Haruwaki's student council in Konoha School, whom she blindly attacks in an alley before coming to her senses and running away. After several hours of searching, Haruwaki manages to find Fear after she jumped into the ocean during a storm in an attempt to take her own life. Haruwaki manages to save her and carries her home on his back, explaining to her that Fear is welcome to stay with him no matter what and that he truly believes that she can get rid of her curse. Because of this, he will tolerate her selfishness and lack of human knowledge. Later, an incident in the bath causes Konoha to move in with Haruwaki, bringing this trio together in one place. Mummy Maker, a sidekick from the night of the battlefront and Peevee's partner who was responsible for saving Peevee after she was injured in the previous battle, goes to Haruwaki's house to make a deal with Haruwaki, Konoha, and Fear while Kirika is there, giving them 3 choices to make regarding Fear. The first of them even taking Fear's life, the second of making Fear powerless and handing her over to the night of the battlefront, and the last option of not protecting her and not even trying to stop them during the capture. This way they could get out alive. Mummy Maker says that she is only doing this because she doesn't want to see bloodshed, so she is giving these 3 peaceful options of how to survive the next attack that she and her team will make. She promises to return at noon the next day to destroy Fear, and that they have until then to decide. Mummy Make gives them a way to communicate with her, telling them to make a wise decision. After Mummy Make leaves, Kirika takes the means of communication that her enemy left and calls with her cell phone a mysterious person who is surprised that she is receiving a call from her. The same night that day, while they were sleeping, an enemy appears in Haruwaki's room. Konoha quickly wakes up and tries to stop the mysterious enemy from doing something to Konoha. Fear also wakes up and uses one of his abilities to hurt the enemy, who runs away soon after. The next day, while Fear and Muramasa are walking, Muramasa provokes Fear, causing his